Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us here on the Father Show. I'm your host, Mike Thompson, and today we have another great show this week, and we're going to have a fantastic guest on here, and I'm proud to say I'm her first time she's been on the podcast, so I get to have her first, and I'm sure she's going to be doing many more. But before we get into that, if you have not subscribed to our YouTube channel, go to our YouTube channel, hit that subscription button, and while you're there, hit that notification bell so every week when we have a show, you can be notified and you'll know whenever we have one. Now, if you are a man looking for resources, go to the Father Show with MikeThompson.com. Click on resources, and there you will find resources that can help you be the best version of yourself. And that's what this show is all about. We want you and me, because I'm not exempt from this at all. We want to be the best version for our family, for our kids, for our grandkids, and for ourselves, most importantly, because you really need to love yourself. And if you love yourself, you're going to try to be the best you can be. So without further ado, I really want to get into this show because we are going to be talking about getting divorced with a narcissist or a sociopath. And that's a heck of a divorce, and I wouldn't wish that on anybody. So we have an expert here today, and to tell you a little bit more about her, I'm going to tell you Chantal, and I hope I don't crush this name, but she helped me teaching. She Contorines. And so Chantal Contorines is a mother of two, a teacher for 21 years, with loads of personality experience with high conflict divorce. She has spent the past 4 years doing extensive research into high conflict personalities with a particular focus on narcissism and sociopath and how these personality types present a large percentage of what constitute high conflict divorces. Chantal is a certified divorce coach through the CDC, as well as a certified transition and recovery coach. And so without further ado, let's welcome Chantal Contorines. Did I get that right? Or was I close?
You did.
All right.
Got those 5 extra bonus marks.
Well, thank you so much. I need those extra points.
Yep. Well, we all do, right?
Yeah, we all do. So I really want to thank you for being on the show today, because this is really, something that is a subject matter that I think a lot of men need to hear about. Now, we know that it's more men that are narcissists and sociopaths than there are women. But there are some women out there, and I want our men to be a little bit more aware of them, to think about, who they're dating and, who they're marrying. So, and I know before the show, we were talking a little bit and you were giving some great reasons why men should be aware and what they should look out for. Well, yeah, let's get into that. How?
Let's deep dive right into it.
Yeah, let's deep dive right into that one. What should a man be looking out for before and even after he gets married to a narcissist or a sociopath?
Well, hopefully you can just avoid it altogether, truthfully.
Yeah.
Once you become attached to them in a legal sense, be it because they're impregnated, or you get married, or you buy a house together, or you even move in together, or you start a business together, it complicates matters far more. Avoidance is best, and you avoid that by being educated. I really do believe that knowledge is power. And while we as a society tend to be more aware of these terms, we don't really understand what they present like. They aren't these monsters. They aren't psychopaths who kill everybody. They tend to be average people. They're people that I can guarantee each person listening to the show, watching the show, has encountered these people and don't even know that they know these people. They can be lawyers and doctors, teachers, moms, dads, grandparents, ministers, religious figures. They're everywhere. And that is the scary part.
Because narcissists generally like to win. Am I correct?
They are a win at all costs. And when you're dealing with divorce and children, they have no issue using their children to win. And if you think about that and let that sink in, that truly is despicable and horrific, but it actually is the reality of the situation.
Yeah, but and one reason. Oh, I'm sorry. But one of the reasons I was saying that is because when you mention the type of people that they are, lawyers, in professional people, business owners, those are people that like to win. Those are type of people that, especially attorneys, because I don't know too many attorneys that like to lose.
Yeah.
But so if you look at a professional person, you can find a narcissist. But for an everyday person, you can still find a narcissist. Am I correct?
Absolutely. And I mean, these people make fantastic attorneys. If they're your attorney, they are the kind of person that you want to represent you because they will win at all costs. If you are undergoing surgery in the ER, you want that kind of doctor who can be calm and cool and collected in the most stressful of times. They make very good doctors. But you don't necessarily want them as your mom and your dad. You don't necessarily want them as your life partner, right? Like you don't want them as your boss or your friend. These are the kind of people that really drain you. And you don't even know that you're being drained until you're fully drained. They really will use you and abuse you and then discard you. Most people leaving this kind of personality are a shell of the person they were before. They have no passion. They have no zest for life. They have no identity. They have no gut feeling anymore. They create emotional fog. They truly, living in this kind of stressful environment, you're not meant to live in stress for prolonged times. It actually shrinks your hippocampus. And that is responsible for like your thinking and your processing and your memory. So people come out of this kind of relationship and they can't think. They can't learn the same way that they did before. And they think they're stupid. They think it's an age thing. It's actually the stress. The prolonged stress creates ripples of aftershocks. So if you can avoid it, that's ideal.
And what are some ways to avoid it? And I know you mentioned some before the show, but I'm going to let you tell it again.
Okay, so narcissists and sociopaths, and we label them for us as people, but legally it really doesn't hold any weight in court. Like if you're up against this kind of personality, you don't ever want to use that kind of label. Not only will it not be well received, but it can also hinder your case. That's more just for you personally to know what you're up against so that you can educate yourself by reading books, watching podcasts, all that sort of stuff, talking to therapists. They cannot sustain their facade for long. They are the ultimate peacock. They can prance around for a little bit of time. I would say no more than a year before cracks start to appear in their personality. They can be incredibly charismatic and charming. They love to mirror you. So whatever you have as interests or likes or dislikes, they also have as dislikes and likes and passion. So if you're an avid hockey player, they're really into hockey. If you are really into National Geographic, they're really into National Geographic. If you are talking about starting a big family and you're talking about loyalty and commitment, guess what? They also have always wanted a big family and they're all about loyalty and commitment. But as time wears on, they cannot maintain that facade. So really taking time, really getting to ask good questions, really getting to see how they react to other people, interact with other people, look at their family, look at their friends. Most of these types of personalities don't have long-lasting, intimate friendships. They have superficial ones, co-workers perhaps, but they cannot sustain long relationships with anybody.
So what is there some signs that you can look for? You mentioned definitely some already, but if you're giving it time and you haven't you fell in love, you met this woman and you said, oh, she's great, she's everything I want, she's my best friend, she loves everything I love. Those are the type of people you say, oh, let's pump the brakes a little bit and
Yeah.
let's
And you
slow
can
this
test it. I
down.
mean, I really do believe in love. I think
Mm-hmm.
love is amazing. And I'm not a negative person by nature. In fact, I'm a pathological positive person. That
Okay.
has been a very good thing for me. It's also been kind of my downfall because I put up with a lot more than I should have in my life because I'm like,
Okay.
oh, it's not a big deal. Um, but I think people have to go into relationships with knowledge, and they have to understand this personality type, what it looks like. And not every narcissist is the same. They all kind of have the same playbook, but they
Mm-hmm.
present differently depending on the kind of narcissist that they are. If they're more covert, they tend to be shyer, they tend to act more vulnerable, they're less charismatic, more self deprecating. Those are harder to find, those are harder to spot.
Okay.
Your typical one that we tend to talk about in the world, like the Tinder swindler, was a malignant one. They come
Mm-hmm.
across as charismatic and the life of the party, well dressed, well liked. They present very well. Those are the kind that we tend to focus on when we think of a narcissist. So when you're taking your time in a relationship, really get to ask them questions. You will find that they tend to ask you a lot of questions. And that seems like, oh my gosh, they're really interested in me. And they are, but not for the reasons that you think. They're not interested in getting to know you better. They're everything that you say to a narcissist is stored away as ammunition to be used against you later. So
So
every pain, every like and dislike, those are all things that are going to be used against you later on. So ask
now,
them questions, turn the table.
yeah, are there certain questions you should be asking?
Ask them about their childhood, ask them about their friends, get to know their friends, meet their friends. It's almost like you're interviewing them. A lot of them don't have close friends, don't have close communication with their families. Their families tend to be dysfunctional. There's a reason these
Hmm.
people are the way they are. There's not concrete science behind it. Some say it's genetic, some say it's trauma. It can be a little bit of both. Oftentimes, they're raised in dysfunctional households. You also want to, they will test your boundaries. So they'll see what you'll put up with early on in the relationship. So
Mm-hmm.
they might do something like say, you know what, we can only listen to country music in my car. That seems kind of, it's offensive to a person like me who doesn't like country music. But if you are like a person who likes hip hop and you're being told that you can only listen to country music and you acquiesce, they're like, oh, I can start to get away with stuff.
Excuse me.
And so, bless you.
Thank you.
Um, those are the kind of things that they will do early on to see what they can get away with. And they'll continue to push the boundary to see how far it can be pushed. And before you know it, because they've given you all the right stuff, and they're really into something called love bombing. And love bombing sounds fancy, but what it is giving you nice gifts. And especially if you're with a moneyed narcissist,
Mm-hmm.
gifts are easy, right?
Hmm.
Nice vacations, a bike that you've always wanted, a really nice wine bottle at a great restaurant. Those are all easy gifts to give if you have money. They tend to do a lot too soon. They talk about being soulmates too soon. Anybody who can envision a life with you after the first 12 hours is probably wanting to hook you, reel you in, and then gut you. Truthfully, I mean,
So be
and again,
careful.
this is hard for me to say because I really am a positive person at heart and
Yeah.
I really do believe in love. But if you're not wide open in this, then the good people, they really are attracted to people who don't have the personality traits that they have. So they're going for loving, kind, generous, loyal people, people who will put up
Mm.
with stuff because they're loving. And oh, you know what? He had a really traumatic childhood. If I just love this person more, we can overcome the trauma together and this person will be whole. So they really, it's not that you attract this kind of personality, it's that this personality is attracted to what they don't have. The
Mm.
values that they lack is what they're attracted to.
So that's what you got to be really careful of.
Hmm. And
Now,
read up, like read everything.
really?
There needs to be like courses in school. I mean, because children learn early on. Children have friends who are developing into this personality as we talk. This starts early, and if not dealt with early on, which oftentimes it's not, your child could be friends with this kind of personality, and your child is learning that that's acceptable behavior. So really, you have to like teach children about boundaries, and people who respect your boundaries. When you say no and they respect them, that is the kind of person you want in your life. People who keep trying different ways to get over your boundary or through your boundary are the kind of people always that you want to keep at a distance.
Yeah, so your teenage daughter, and really your teenage daughter, for us men, but also your teenage son, because as we were
Oh,
talking about, there's narcissistic women and men. And so
yes.
you have to be very careful of
Oh,
who, and I tell people all the time, you have to be very careful who's in your circle, and
hmm.
you limit the type of people that are in your circle. And I'm like you, I believe in love. I believe in relationship. It's, my wife and I just love her to death. And we are, the best of friends. She is my best friend. And we do a lot of things together. So I wish, a lot of times when I'm talking with her or being around her, I wish I could have every man to get what I have, because
yeah.
I'm just tickled pink. But it
You
took me
feel
three
lucky,
marriages.
right?
But it took me three marriages to get there. I said, so it
It's a good
wasn't.
thing you persevered and didn't
I
give
did.
up, right?
I did. I
Yeah.
don't give up. That's my little bit of my narcissism into me.
I also don't give up,
Yeah.
which is why I stayed for longer than I should have, but it's also why I have found the kind of partner that you have.
Yeah. And see,
I
and I
fully,
don't put up with. I am a type of person, and I had to really kind of watch myself as I was growing up, and I had to learn, and I didn't really learn until I got in my 50s, that if I was dating you and you ticked me off for whatever reason, it was over. I'm gone. I say, see you later, because I don't want drama. I don't want drama in my
Mhm.
life. And so I don't think I could ever get with a narcissist. That's probably a good trait that I had to keep me
Yeah.
from getting to a narcissist.
So
Be-
if we could just bottle that and sell that, then we
I,
could avoid people partnering with this kind of person because they truly do ruin your life. This is what people don't understand is these people ruin your life. In fact, that's their goal
hmm,
is to use you, suck you dry, and then leave you. A lot of
really?
people who leave these kind of relationships have post-traumatic stress disorder. They're in therapy. You can oftentimes spot this kind of personality, not that they will ever go to therapy, but the people closest to them
Hmm.
are always in therapy to deal with the aftermath of what they've done, be it their partner or their children.
Hmm.
So if you can avoid this, I mean, honestly, I fear for my son, who's a lot like me.
Hmm.
He's a lover, he's kind, he's gentle, he's thoughtful, he's a people pleaser, which I think, I mean, I know that is my fault. That is my biggest fault is that I like to please people, or I did.
Hmm.
Chantal 1.0 was a people pleaser. Chantal 2.0 is a Chantal pleaser. My son is a lot like the former me. And so
Hmm.
I'm really working with him on creating boundaries and really talking about feelings and emotions. And people who respect you will respect your boundaries. People who don't respect you, who benefit from you not having boundaries, will are not the people that you want in your life.
Yeah.
Um,
Now, if you were to marry, they didn't take your advice and they didn't wait a year, they didn't ask the right questions, and they
yeah.
looked up and they're in a narcissistic or sociopath marriage, is 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 it harder to get divorce them? And another question I really want to ask is, if you know you're getting ready to divorce that person, is there something that you should prepare yourself for?
You need to prepare for it to be long term. So it is not going to be a sprint. It will most likely be an ultra marathon. So before you even, if people understand this before they separate, most don't even understand what they're up against
Mm-hmm.
until like quite some time has passed after they've actually initiated the separation, and that can take years. It can take years of just really not understanding. Oftentimes, people leave and they feel like it's them. It's their if they just loved more. They're crazy. They demanded too much. Gaslighting is really effective at psychologically damaging you. So if you know ahead of time that you're dealing with this kind of personality and you suspect that it could lead to this, the more you prepare yourself emotionally and physically to last, the better off you'll be. So that means going to therapy. That means doing activities that really bring you joy, that really help to relieve stress and boost your endorphins. Be that yoga or meditation or lifting heavy weights or going for jogs. Therapy is critical. Also, not to be biased, but truly having a divorce coach who understands this personality and can educate you as to what it looks like, how it presents, how to communicate with them. Communication with this type of personality is so exhausting, so circular. You never win. So learning how to communicate effectively, to limit your engagement and your back and forth is critical. Creating really clear boundaries, physical, mental, emotional, time, all that sort of stuff is really important, and sticking to them. They're like toddlers. They will ask you 100 times for something and you can say no, 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 no. But if on the 101st time you say yes, they've just learned. I can keep pushing, and at some point she'll acquiesce or he'll acquiesce. So really ensuring that you know what your boundaries are, and once you've created those boundaries, sticking to them, really being firm. That's really important. They truly are like oversized toddlers,
So,
and they will.
no, go
And
ahead.
oftentimes, once you separate, it gets worse. So you thought it was really bad when you were in the relationship together, but post-separation abuse is not only real, but it can escalate. So things that weren't physical before can turn
Mm-hmm.
physical. When they feel like they've been abandoned, when they fear the loss of control, they will escalate and try everything to get you back or to put you back under their thumb. So you really have to be prepared for that.
Now, do you think it would be very advantageous to, be careful of your safety, be aware of your safety, not just for you, but if you have kids out of that marriage, for your kids as well?
Absolutely. 100%. People don't want to think of that because that is truly terrible. But again, if you go back to what I said before, they have no issue using your children to hurt you. So if you're a loving, kind dad or loving, kind mom,
Mm-hmm.
and they know this about you, because remember, they're really good at gathering intel and watching. They are like stalking their prey. You are their prey. They know how you operate. They know what is important to you. Oftentimes that's financial stability, so they'll try that first. But if they can't get to you that way, then they'll go to what is truly the most important. And for most people, that is your children.
Wow.
So if they previously did not abuse your children, both emotionally or mentally or psychologically, they will start to do that. They will use your children. They can even turn your children against you. And it sounds far fetched. It sounds that doesn't really happen. It only happens in movies. I've seen it happen. I've seen it happen really
Mm-hmm.
fast. Kids who once loved their parent no longer even want to see them. I
Yeah.
mean, that is brutal. It's brutal for the child. It's brutal for the parent.
Yeah. And
And then
I've
the
had some
ultimate
friends. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
I've had some friends that actually have their former girlfriend or former spouse really turned their kids against them. And
Mhm.
it has really damaged them. And once again, like you said, not I don't know them, so I don't know if they were narcissists or sociopath or not, or just as that saying goes, when you're done ticked off a woman, it's nothing like a woman that's mad. So you know, and that's not to be not racist, but
No,
that's not to be
sexist.
sexist. Thank
Mhm.
you. But it is. It's nothing like a woman scorn. And,
No,
you
truly.
know, and then if she's a sociopath or narcissism, you really got a problem.
You really do. And your children's safety is also, I mean, it tends to be men who murder their children.
Hmm.
There aren't a lot of females who do, but if you read the news, I mean, even where I live in Victoria, like literally around the corner from my house, two little girls were killed on Christmas morning by their dad. Why?
Wow.
Because he could not control his ex-wife and he wanted to hurt her in the worst possible way. And he did. This woman now no longer has her two young daughters,
Yeah.
and he is alive. He did not. Yeah. So
Would you say that when a man or woman say that if I can have you, nobody can, is that a narcissist or a sociopath type person?
that is a huge red flag that you are up against a high conflict personality. They make all or nothing statements. There are things like, if you go through with this, you're not going to have any money. If you go through with this, no one's ever going to have you. Like those are the kind of statements that sound like just like idle threats, person like possibly on the surface, but they
Hmm.
truly do mean to go through with this. So that's when you have to be very careful. And I think for women, it's much easier because as a society, we accept that men abuse women. I think it's much
Yeah.
harder for men. It goes against all the principles that we have, like a manly man. How could you be
Hmm.
abused by the
Hmm.
weaker sex, right? And I'm not trying to be sexist against women or men, but this is just psychology,
It's a
right? We think
fact.
of men
Yeah.
as, capable and stronger, possibly even better. So how could you possibly be abused by a woman who might even be smaller than you, right? Who's supposed to be meeker and weaker than you are? I
Hmm.
think even though it's predominantly men who abuse women, I
Hmm.
think it's more difficult for men to find the help that they need because there's a lot of shame around
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
There's a whole lot of shame as how could I possibly be abused by a woman? I'm a man. And who's going to believe me?
Hmm.
If you're 6'5" and your wife is 5'2" and weighs 100 pounds soaking wet, how could she possibly abuse you?
Right.
It happens.
And it does. And a lot of men, and you're absolutely correct, because a lot of men experience it, but they will not say a word because
Yeah.
you can't go to your partner and say, man, my wife is kicking my butt every night. She's slapping me. She's hitting me. She's threatening me. And
She's
they're going to look at
belittling
you like,
me.
yeah. And they're going to look at you like, dude, man up,
You're
you know?
crazy.
Yeah. And if you go to the police, they're going to look at you like, really? You know? But,
Yeah, they already don't believe women who are up against much larger men.
uh huh.
It's very hard for a woman. You're going to be laughed out of the police station if you're a man saying that your
Yeah.
small little wife is abusing you.
Yeah.
And I think that's why there's real obstacles for men who are in this position to go forward. And also, as I've realized myself, women talk, right? So if I'm having an issue, I'll talk to my female friends and I'll work
Hmm.
through it and I'll connect with people. I'm like, oh, okay, you think that I'm married to a narcissist? Oh, I hadn't even thought of that. And then I'll go do my research. Men don't talk. Men don't talk about feelings. Men don't. They talk to their friends on a superficial manner, right? About like their sports or their hobbies or how their kids are doing superficially. My kid's doing really well. Well, are they really doing well? No, but most men aren't going to say, well, my child really seems to be suffering with anxiety in the morning.
Yeah.
Men certainly aren't going to say to their friends, hey, you know what? Like, I feel like really devalued at home. I'm feeling really confused about my relationship. I don't think she loves me. I think she might be manipulating me. She's, withholding sex for me. Men don't talk like that. So
Hmm.
men have a harder time realizing what they're dealing with because they simply lack the ability to connect with their friends on that level.
Yeah. And you don't have a lot of friends that you can bring that to. You might have one that you
Mm-hmm.
can really sit down and talk to, but generally men don't have that kind of friendships that they can sit down with their partner and say, this is what's going on, what should I do? And if you
Mm-hmm.
do, I know a few men that have them, and they're very lucky to have those type of men. I used to have one, and Aaron and we talked about everything. It wasn't nothing that we didn't really talk about. And I really, when he died, that broke my heart because that was my male confidant. That
Mm-hmm.
was a person that I could go to, then say, hey, I need help with this, or this is what I'm feeling or something like that. And, and he was a NFL player. And so he was a big dude, 6'5", 200, over
Not your
250
typical person
pounds.
that you would think, right?
No, but he was great at that. And we had that type of relationship where he would talk to me, I would talk to him, and it was great. But, and I, like you, I read an article just yesterday about a father that in Sacramento, and I got it right here. The father killed 4, including his 3 daughters who were 9, 10, and 13.
And then the person who was there to protect them, the person who
You
was
saw that
overseeing
one
the
too?
visitation.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because they were
I
at a
follow all of
church.
it.
Yeah. And it just really broke my heart to read that article, to think that, and I know men do it, to go into a church and you kill. I'm going to say this, and I know it's not the right political way. I can see you killing your wife, your ex-wife, but your kids,
And this is what it goes back to, Mike. Killing the wife is an easy thing. She's not going to suffer, but you kill her children, the thing that she loves most above all.
Yeah.
And you have forever traumatized her for the rest of her life. This is why they do it. The kids, as I said, they're weapons and they're pawns to be used. And when you actually think about that, that is why I really believe that both genders can be great parents. And with a healthy relationship, 50-50 makes sense, right? But when you have women, and I deal with women, it can be the same for men, but I deal with women. So when you have women who have to have restraining orders out against their spouses because they're violent, and then the same people who award her the protective custody also award her ex-partner custody of the children, there's a real disconnect there. A man who's capable of hurting his wife is equally as capable as hurting his children. And he will, if he's not getting this kind of responses from his partner. He will go after the children to hurt her. And it might not be that he kills them, but it might be that he subjects them to neglect or inappropriate comments or manipulation. I mean, that kind of stuff is not as obvious as death or even, punches or kicks or scratches, but it's long lasting and it causes huge effects to them later on in life. And so I think that 50-50 is a given. Kids are considered an asset to be split. And I think more work has to be done with actually looking at the parents. Are they healthy? Are they capable of raising the children in the best possible way? If they are, 50-50 is awesome. Yeah. But if a partner is right? Yeah. If a partner is abusive, they should not have even visitation, as this case sadly demonstrates, right? It's supervised visitation. So that's supposed to be safe because there's another adult in the premise. And yet he not only managed to kill his 3 children, but also the innocent person. I mean, they're all innocent, but this person who had nothing to do with this other than to supervise it, right?
Right.
This is common. I think it's staggering, like 836 children in the U.S. have been killed over the last 10 years by parents. And why? They do it to hurt the other parent. This is a huge issue. And I could keep talking about it too.
Because
it really needs to be addressed.
Yeah, it really does need to be addressed. And that's why I wanted to do the show, because I really want... I know the show is mainly for men, and we're talking about men, but I know there's women out there that are narcissists and sociopath, and
absolutely.
But as you mentioned, and I've said on this show before, knowledge is powerful, and that's how you're going to be the best version of yourself, is giving yourself more knowledge. So even if you're a man out there and you have a narcissist or sociopath personality to some degree or to a major degree, like you mentioned earlier, go get some counseling and get some help. Because now, and I know you're not a counselor, but do you think that by them going to counseling, it's going to help them and make them less of a sociopath? And I know that's a dangerous question.
So the optimist in me would love to say yes.
Yeah.
I think therapy can be incredibly instrumental for everybody. I think everybody can benefit from therapy. However, the premise of this personality is that they truly inherently believe that they are a victim, that everybody else is to blame. And that is because they have such delicate, fragile egos.
Mm-hmm.
They've created this persona to, to safeguard themselves from whatever trauma happened to them as they were growing up. That really is the reason why they present this way. I would love to say that therapy would work. Now, there are cases there are two men that I follow, and they are self-professed narcissists, and they're both in therapy, and they're supposed to be aware of their personality. I'm not 100% sure I believe that they're being truthful in that. I think it might just be a ploy because they have a whole shtick. Their whole social media is about them helping people from a narcissist perspective. Therapy can always help, but you really have to have a very informed therapist, because even the most informed therapist can be charmed by these people. These people can present as incredibly charming, and that is what's so hard. You really have to see them from every angle and really ask the right questions and really know what you're looking for and at to truly get to the crux of the issue. Otherwise, you can be fooled by them. I mean, there are tons of people who are experts in this area who are fooled by them. That's why going to marriage counseling with this kind of personality oftentimes ends up re-traumatizing the victim, because then you have a therapist who is the expert saying that you're the actual issue, when in actuality it's your partner who's able to charm and manipulate the therapist to think that they're like this person who's trying so hard and they love you so much. If only you weren't so depressed and anxious. Well, you're depressed and anxious because this person abuses you on the daily.
And if you are a man that is experiences this from a woman, and you going into a therapist, boy, you screwed.
I have seen this. I have seen this with a friend, and they went to a therapist who's an expert in this personality, and she is beautiful, and she comes across as really quiet and shy, and the husband was diagnosed as the issue. And she herself was a covert narcissist who was able to play the whole look at me, I just don't know anything about money, and I really, I tried, and he controls everything. And yeah, he did, because he was the one who was making all the money, who provided the lifestyle, and so he did this truly to help. But she was painting it as a control issue. And I don't know what the solution is, truthfully. If I did, I could solve the world problems, and I would help everybody avoid this personality. But I think truly the biggest thing is just people need to know and do their research.
Yeah, I think the knowledge and taking your time is one of the two keys. Because I used to say often, especially in my younger years, that, once a woman says I do, there's a lot of them just flip. They're sweet, and they're this and they're that. And then once they say I do, they got you, and they just turn on you.
Oh, yeah.
So I used to tell a lot of men, just take your time.
Take your time. And I think we live in a society that puts so much pressure on time, right? Like we tend to think that you need to be married by the age of 30. That tends to be like our benchmark, right? Anything past that, you're getting, especially as a woman, you're getting older, which means you're not as attractive, which means you are less marketable. It's easier for a man to be older, but for like a woman, so we tend to rush in thinking like, well, this is good enough, right? It might not be like the best, but if I don't do this now, then I won't be able to have children, and I won't have the status associated with marriage. And so we rush in, either because we're being pressured by the person who wants us to rush in, or by society who's saying, you know what, TikTok, you have to do this now, or it's never going to happen.
Yeah, so they settle in a sense. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
Well, Chantal, I mean, as we knew already, we could talk about this all day and keep going. But I know you got things to do, and so I want to be very conscious of your time. So I'm going to try to close this show out. But I want you to tell the audience how they can get in touch with you, what you offer, and, all the things that you do and what you offer, and and what you can present for them.
Okay, so I run a company called the Divorce Hub, and that's www.thedivorcehub.ca. And I do it all. So I'm a certified divorce coach with a specialty in high conflict personalities, and I educate. That's a huge part of what I do is I educate you on the personality, what to look for, how they present, how to go up against them, how to play their game, not to become them, but to be able to disengage from them. I teach you how to communicate. I teach you how to set boundaries. If you're parenting with this kind of person, you can't co-parent. That is impossible, but you can parallel parent. So I teach you how to parallel parent. And I can coach you through your separation, through your divorce, post-divorce. And I also can help coach you through to pre-mediation so that you go to mediation and you are educated and knowledgeable and you you're able to represent yourself in a very cohesive, articulate fashion. That is what I do.
Good. Good. That's excellent. And I wanted to ask that question, so I'm glad you mentioned it, co-parenting with a narcissist or a sociopath. And, that could be very hard. So we have to come
impossible.
Back. Yeah. And we have to come back and do that one and talk about it. But I like you said, it's really impossible because they're always going to be wanting to win and challenge you and then really turning those kids against you.
Yeah.
And that I've seen a lot.
Is the only way.
Yeah. So let's do a show about parallel parenting because that's not a phrase that we really hear about. And I think with this, what we're talking about today, I think we really need to talk about parallel parenting. So I will be looking forward to having you back on the show. And so I'm going to close it out, but do not hang up because I want to just tell you a few things after the show. Okay?
Okay. Thank you so much, Mike.
No, thank you. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that is our show for today. And I want to thank Chantal Contorines. I think I screwed it up that time. But she's with the Divorce Hub. And I really want to thank her for coming on the show and talking about the narcissist and sociopath in a divorce and how difficult that can be. And I know there's a lot of fellas out there that probably are experiencing this or have gone through it or about to go through it. And I really wanted to get that knowledge to you so that you know what to look for, what to be prepared for. And that way, I can't say make it as easy as possible, but if you know what you're getting ready to get into, if you're getting ready to divorce that type of personality, then that helps you to get through it, work through it, and know, they say, know your enemy and keep them close. So this is what you want to do. But if you have not subscribed to our show, please go to The Father Show with Mike Thompson YouTube channel. Click on that subscription button, and while you're there, hit that notification bell so that way every time we have a show that's uploaded, you'll be notified and you'll know all about it. And if you are in need of resources, please go to The Father Show with MikeThompson.com. Click on the resource header. And there you will find resources that are nationwide and statewide. So you can find what you're looking for. If you cannot, please send me an email at thefathershow@gmail.com and let me know that there's something particular that you need. And also, if you want us to do a show on a particular subject that's going to educate you and give you some more knowledge, please write me, let me know, and we'll definitely do our best to get that to you. So until next week, I want to thank you for joining us, and I look forward to seeing you next week when we have another fantastic show, and it might be Chantal. So have a great week. God bless you all, and I look forward to seeing you next week.